Please be seated. We began our Lenten study this past week called What is Truth? And we began it by reading this poem by Beth Strano. There is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and have caused wounds. This space seeks to turn down the volume of the world outside and amplify voices that have to fight to be heard elsewhere. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be. But it will be our space together, and we will work on it side by side. And after we read that, we began reflecting on the difference between safe space and brave space, and on what it means to be brave, what it requires each of us to be brave, because bravery is not the same for everyone. What's brave for me is not the same as what is brave for you, in part because what makes me afraid is not necessarily the same thing that makes you afraid. We live in the real world, and we all have scars. We all have things that have happened to us that have made us fearful. Things that we alone have to be brave about. And we have all caused wounds. We have all done things that have made others afraid, things that have made the world less safe for others. And owning up to that is also an act of bravery. What do you need in order to be brave, in order to create brave space? We're presented with a stunning image of bravery in today's gospel. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, but Jerusalem in Luke particular is more than just a place. It's really a symbol. The word Jerusalem means foundation of peace, or the city of God's peace, of God's shalom. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said of Jerusalem that even those who believe that God is everywhere set aside a place for a sanctuary. For the sacred to be sensed at all moments everywhere, it must also at this moment be somewhere. Jerusalem is that somewhere, that set-aside place. Jerusalem is every place and the ultimate place. It is where God's presence is revealed. It is the holy heavenly city. It is the place to which all exiles return. It is the longed-for culmination of all of our hopes. It is all of that and more. As Barbara Brown Taylor puts it, nothing that happens in Jerusalem is insignificant. When Jerusalem obeys God, the world spins peacefully on its axis. When Jerusalem ignores God, the whole planet wobbles. Jesus is going to Jerusalem because the planet is wobbling. And for all of the wonderful things that Jerusalem symbolizes, today he reminds us that it is also the city that kills the prophets. Jerusalem exists in the real world. It is not a safe space. Plenty of people tell him not to go, but Jesus, in Luke's evocative phrase, has set his face to go to Jerusalem, knowing that it is not safe, knowing what will happen to him when he gets there. Jerusalem is not a safe space. It is the holy heavenly city, and it exists in the real world where people have scars, where people have caused wounds, where people are fearful and act out. And in the midst of this, Jesus paints an unforgettable picture of bravery, the type of bravery that he embodies so fully, and the type of bravery that we are all called to practice. Today, he paints a picture of Jerusalem inhabited by a fox and a bunch of nervous chicks. And we all know how that narrative usually goes, don't we? Barbara Brown Taylor once wrote about this passage from Luke, saying, quote, "If you have ever loved someone you could not protect, if you have ever loved someone you could not protect, then you understand the depth of Jesus' lament. All you can do is open your arms. You cannot make anyone walk into them. Meanwhile, this is the most vulnerable posture in the world. Wings spread, breast exposed. But if you mean what you say," she says, "then this is how you stand." Herod is the fox, and Jesus chooses not an apex predator, a bigger predator, a lion or an eagle, but a slightly larger chicken, a mother hen. Taylor says, of course Jesus chooses a chicken, which is about as far from a fox as you can get. That way, the options become very clear. You can live by licking your chops, or you can die protecting the chicks. Jesus won't be king of the jungle, she says, in this or any other story. What he will be is a mother hen who stands between the chicks and those who mean to do them harm. She has no fangs, no claws, no rippling muscles. All she has is her willingness to shield her babies with her own body. If the fox wants them, he will have to kill her first. Which he does, it turns out. He slides up on her one night in the yard while all the babies are asleep. When her cry wakens them, they scatter, and she dies the next day where both foxes and chickens can see her, wings spread, breast exposed, without a single chick beneath her feathers. It breaks her heart, but it does not change a thing. If you mean what you say, then this is how you stand. If you mean what you say, this is how you stand in this most vulnerable of postures, arms out, breast exposed, protecting those who are even more vulnerable. And significantly, this is also the posture of prayer. There is no such thing as safe space. And we know that, don't we? We know that the real world is always pressing in on us. We know that predators prowl. We know that danger lurks always. We also know the hope that we carry, the hope that Jesus gives us, the courage that Jesus gives us. And so the only question really is, how are we going to live in this real world? How are we going to move about in it? Like a ravenous fox, or a terrified chick, or a protective mother? How are we going to stand? And with whom are we going to stand? And who are we going to follow as we make our way to Jerusalem?